Hey everyone, this is a follow-up on the video that I made last week where I talked about the different programming languages that you could learn depending on what your goals are. Every programming language is different. Each of them have unique features and are suited for different use cases. But almost all of them share a few fundamental concepts. When beginners are starting to learn a new programming language, they can often be overwhelmed with the amount of documentation, information, and resources that are available on the internet. If you're learning a new programming language, you may be confused about what is important to learn at this stage and what isn't really worth your time at this stage in your learning path. So in this video, we're going to go over the basic programming concepts that every programmer should know like the back of their hand. If you're learning a new programming language and you don't know where to start, then start with these basic concepts. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that this video series will not be focused on teaching any specific programming language, but I will be using Python in examples because it's a very simple language that doesn't overwhelm most beginners. In my opinion, one of the first programming concepts that you should learn when picking up a new programming language is how to use variables. Variables are like containers that help you to store pieces of data in the computer's memory. Each variable has a name that's associated with it. For example, if you create a variable x and assign it a value 5, that means that any time in your program where you say x, the program will know that you are referring to the value 5. Variables are very useful when you want to define a value once and be able to use it multiple times without remembering what it is, right? And if later on you want to change that value, you don't have to change it in 10 places. You just have to go up to the top of your program and change the variable definition once. Next up, you should learn how to perform input and output operations in your programming language. And when I say input and output, I mean how to get data from the user and how to display data to the user through the console. As a side note, the console or the terminal is a simple black window which shows up in most programming text editors or IDEs, which allow you to easily interact with your programs. First, learn how to print data or output to the console. In most programming languages, this function is called a print function, and it allows you to print a string of text to the user. For example, one of the first and most famous programming exercises that everyone tries when they're learning a new programming language is to print the text "Hello World" onto the console. So definitely try that in whatever programming language you are learning. After that, you should try to learn how to accept data from the user. Most languages have some sort of function, a built-in function that allows you to do this. For example, in Python, you have the function input, which allows you to ask the user a question or a prompt and then record whatever data they have entered or typed in. Learning how to use input and output effectively is very useful when you want to create interactive programs. Printing output to the console is also very useful if you want to test your program to see if it does what you want. Alright, next up we have data types. Data types are just different types of information that can be stored in your programming language. All programming languages have a few basic data types, and some of them have more specific or unique ones. Some of the most common data types which are shared by almost all programming languages are strings for representing text or characters, integers for representing whole numbers without any decimals, floats or doubles for representing numbers which have fractions or decimal places, and Boolean values, which can either be true or false. Different programming languages have unique data types. So if you're learning a new language, definitely take some time to learn about the available data types in your language of choice. The last programming concept which we'll cover today is comments. Comments are special lines of text in your code which are ignored by the program when it is executing. Comments are very useful and are often used to document or explain your code. Additionally, if you're a programmer that's working on a team that has a shared code base, comments are exceptionally useful for helping others understand what your code does or how it works. In most programming languages, you can create a comment by adding some special character to the beginning of a line. Due to time constraints, I couldn't cover everything in this video, which is why I'll be splitting it into two parts. In part 2, which comes out next week, I'll be going over some more fundamental programming concepts which aren't necessarily more advanced, but they definitely build on the concepts and topics which we discussed today. If that's something that you're interested in watching, then definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.